Alright, so one more ENIAC update. It's Saturday night. Again, pretty late, but I'm still inspired, so wanted to make another update. A few things I actually forgot to do yesterday, and one thing I actually got done tonight. So let's start with the OnShape update. You'll see that this is actually a new document, completely cleaned up. I have changed, I actually cleaned up a lot of the old files that were in here before, or what OnShape calls part studios. And so this should hopefully help the document load much quicker. It's actually an entirely new OnShape document, and I mainly did that because there was some issues with the branching and inversions in the original one. And my thought was, it's been 2 years. It's time to kind of start with a clean, fresh slate, at least with what the ENIAC is today. You'll see the existing carriage that I designed is still there. And so what I'm going to start doing now that we have a main version is actually going to start branching and work on specific components. So like I'm going to start working on the 2020 extrusion. What I'll do is I'll branch that out. I'll create a new one. One more thing I'm actually going to do before I start doing that is actually will go ahead and delete. It's not going to be deleted, and I'll talk about it in a second. I'm going to remove the XY carriage that I designed, and I'm going to move that to deprecated folder, probably along with the Y rods and the component here. The idea is, hopefully to start with a brand new version that we can then later merge on. So we'll see. There's a couple ways to do it, but again, the goal here is to have a clean slate. Let me see if I can walk through this and if it'll work. So hopefully this will be my screen. And I'll kind of just quickly explain what the different folders are. So there's the printer, which is the main assembly, which is what we're looking at now. There's the printed parts, which is where you would go and you would export this entire tab. We talked about this in another video a long time ago to get all the STL files for all the parts that you need to print. And then what I've done is I've created a deprecated folder. Now in the deprecated folder is a whole bunch of stuff in here, just tons of stuff. Some stuff like this, like the pause mounts that I made and, kind of worked and didn't work, but it's not really part of the ENIAC, but, hey, if you want to use it, you can. There's some parts in there, like the Flex 3D carriage that I started designing that we're not going to use. There was a new extruder carriage that I was going to use, that design that I was going to use. Lots of stuff in here. Some of the old parts actually from the Vulcanist that we started with. It's just a pain in OnShape right now to delete this, and you have to delete one by one, and I'm not going to do it. And then I figured, there's some stuff like this control box that I created that maybe somebody's interested in. There's a cable mount for an X carriage that maybe somebody finds useful. So I just left these in there. They should not affect the loading of the OnShape document, so hopefully that should be fine. But there's the folders tab, and this is actually where the important stuff is. And I try to separate it into 4 folders from here. And so you have reference drawings. These are always going to be any kind of drawing specifically, right? Hopefully there'll be more in here, but stuff like the corner plate drawing, the printer drawing. Now you'll notice there's no aluminum bed drawing or printed bed drawing. That's because that's actually under the components folder. We'll look at that in a second. Apologies, I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, so it's going to be slow here. But the accessory mount folder is going to be all the kinds of stuff like the ramps mounts, different 90 degree fan mounts, 0 degree fan mount, right? There's going to be some stuff like this part studio in here that kind of trying to remember what this is for, and I just didn't have the head for it tonight. There is some full files in here which I'll clean up as well. Again, the original pause mount bracket, the LED mounts. So again, if you're looking for those individual components, mounts specifically, right? Anything that would be considered a mount, it would be in this folder. If we back up to the folders folder, there's going to be the OnShape apps. This is just a holding place for any kind of the apps that OnShape uses. It's really a pain because it creates them as part of the document as if they're additional studios when they're really not. And you rarely use them unless you're like looking for particular, using one render or using some sort of simulation tool. And so it's just a pain. So I put it in its own folder. And then you have all the components. Now under the components, you're going to have a lot of stuff in here. And And these are, again, more things that are components that are core to the original printer, right? So if you think of a mount, you know, like a ramps mount or a fan mount, you could probably get away with something else, or not using a mount at all, like a zip tie, if you will, right? But things like the belt tension or the bed level screw mount, like these are the components that you have to have. These are printed parts that are part of the printer, and that's really the key here, right? They're all printed parts. Now, if we keep scrolling down towards the end, what I did, and again, I'm going to further clean up this folder when I can, but there's reference components. And the key that these are just things like screws, washers, threaded rods, NEMA motors, E3D hot end, right? It's just all the BOD components that we would use in the actual OnShape documents or in the part studios. So they're not printed parts per se. If again we go back to the end, we have things like the weights specifically. So anything relating to the weights, extruder that's currently used, it's in there. Anything that's related to the print bed, anything related to the panels. So things like the print bed and the aluminum drawings for the print bed, they will be in here, right? Anything that's related to the print bed specifically will be in this folder. So hopefully, that gives a little more context. It helps with the loading of the OnShape document. And then if you really don't care to see the individual components and kind of go through the folders, you don't have to. You can just come up with this printer tab, and then you can of course just say, hey, I want to look at this mount, and you click there and you can export that mount itself. Again, we talked about these in other videos. You can isolate it, you can go to the item in the list, you can actually jump to the part itself. So hopefully that helps. And then let's go back to the last other part that I forgot yesterday, which was on my head, but I'm still kind of thinking this out, and I brought up this example of an extruder board. I did say PCB, and so I wanted to kind of give a little more details as to what that might be. The idea that this is, and this is actually an open source project, which I'll share the link to. Like I said, there's this massive header that comes in here. I think that this one is particularly overkill. I really don't think we need this many pins, but I need to look at the schematics a little more. But this is the idea. You'll have a header pin. You'll have your heater. This is PW laser fan. I'll just be a PW fan, right? I'll redo a PCB for this. Extruder fan, a thermal fan, motor, probe, and servos. And so it'll all have these kind of hopefully somewhat standard JST type headers. Maybe some XC30 headers for things like the header, just to be a little more beefy there. Again, I need to think about this a lot more, but I wanted to give a preview of what it is, and then some simple hole mounts that will mount to the extruder carriage. So hopefully this will simplify the carriage significantly, make connecting things a lot easier. And so I just wanted to give a preview of what this might be. Thank you again for watching in this 8-minute update. Sorry, I tend to ramble, especially late at night. Thank you everybody for watching, and look for more updates soon. And I will update the OnShape Doc link in the pinned post. Thank you.